Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. I hereby call the Elections Campaign Finance Subcommittee to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representative Burkhart. Representative Doggett. Representative Hilton Haynes. Representative Miller. Representative Moon. Representative Warner. Chairman Crawford. Chairman Rudd.
Here.
Chairman Rudd, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Do any members have any personal orders before we begin? Yes.
Crawford.
Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have my shadow today from Stewart County High School, and her name is Lizzie Gwynn, and I hope that y'all would welcome her.
Chairman Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have a shadow with me today. It's Jonathan Gillette. He is with the Tennessee Eagles, and he is from Bell Buckle, Tennessee. Let's make him feel welcome.
Today, we have 6 bills on the calendar, and we have some adjustments. Item number 1, HB 2096 by Vaughn has been rolled 1 week with no objections. Item number 2, HB 2394 by Lafferty has been taken off notice. Item number 3, HB 2033 by Representative Barrett has been taken off notice. Next up is item number 4, House Joint Resolution 0042 by Representative Hardaway. Is he in the room? We'll
Motion to roll the hill.
roll to the hill. Any objections? We roll that to the hill. And item number 5, HB 2657 by Representative Chisholm has been a request to roll to the last calendar of the committee. Any objections? Seeing none, it's rolled to the last calendar of the committee. Next up, I'll pass the gavel to Chairman Crawford because is HB 1955 by myself. Okay.
We got a proper motion and second on House Bill 1955. I do see it has an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code?
It is 015735.
That is correct. I have a motion on the amendment. Is there a second? There is a second. Would you like for us to place the amendment on the bill to be discussed?
Yes, it makes a bill. Thank you.
Without objection, we're voting on Amendment 15735 going on to House Bill 1955. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized, Chairman Rudd, on your bill.
I'll read over. It's a lengthy discussion. This is it's a bill has been changed a lot to address a lot of different issues. As you may or may not know, this bill that we originally had was based on a reform bill in Florida, and part of that bill has been not upheld in court, so we took that out of the bill. And this bill has been rewritten to address similar things, but it doesn't address what the bill was originally addressing. The bill addresses the following. The bill amends procedures for conducting voter registration drives. Currently, a person or individuals conducting a drive may not set quotas or pay based on the number of voters registered. Voter registration forms must be turned in within 15 days after being collected, or by the voter registration deadline if it is sooner. Copying or retaining an applicant's information without their consent is prohibited. Section 1 clarifies that the date of voter registration is signed and is presumed to be the date a person or organization collected the form for purposes of calculating the deadline to turn in the form. Section 2 adds the following new prohibitions on persons and organizations conducting voter registration drives. Voter registration forms cannot be pre-filled out for the potential voter before being given to the applicant, unless the government agency fulfilling its duties, such as the Department of Safety. Since they use kiosks and other things, they have to be pre-filled out. A person convicted of a felony defined in the Election Code, Title II, for exploitation of election laws, or the elderly or vulnerable persons, or aggravated perjury, may not collect or handle voter registration applications. A person or organization collecting voter registrations shall not alter the voter registration form of any person without the person's knowledge or consent. The State Election Commission retains the right to impose civil penalties. These were upheld in the decision. Mailing pre-filled forms would carry a maximum fine of $50 per violation, which is the same violations of the existing law. The allowing individuals convicted of felonies listed in G2 of the bill or alternating forms without an applicant's consent would carry a maximum fine of $5,000 per violation. Penalties are reviewed under the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. And Mr. Chairman, that's the bill, and it tightens up all within what has been recently in court, and it makes it even stronger, but it does not limit or discourage organizations or individuals from helping register people, but it holds them accountable when they are breaking the law and violating people's rights or pre-filling out forms. And that's the bill, sir.
You've heard the explanation from the sponsor on the bill. Is there any questions? Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing the bill. Who would enforce, if someone knew of a violation that was going on,
Chairman Rudd.
where would that person go to make sure the law was enforced?
It's my understanding is it is, and if necessary, if legal, if we have to go out of session, he can address that. I believe right now it'd be the same it is under current law, depending on who called it, would probably be the local district attorney. It could also be even the attorney general, I'd imagine, but usually either the state would catch it or the locals would catch it, but we can have you address that because that's not specifically in the bill. It's an existing code.
Representative Warner, would you like for us to go out of session to hear from legal?
Sure. Thank you,
Without
Mr. Chairman.
objection, we'll be out of session. Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Houston, Legal Services. So in subsection G of the statute that we're amending is 2-2-142. It says the state election commission may impose maximum civil penalties. So it'd be up to the state election commission.
Representative Martin.
You trying to give Representative Martin a compliment?
No, I just had a brain freeze. Sorry,
Okay.
Representative
I'm
Warner.
just aggravating you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the
No.
recognition. So if there was a violation, it would be an individual's responsibility to take it to the Secretary of State or the State Election Commission.
Legal Services.
Yes, that's correct.
And
Representative Warner.
and from that point on, it would be up to them to pursue it on the further.
Legal Service.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any more questions for the legal while we're out of? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To legal, as a sitting representative, if I wanted to do a voter registration drive, how would I be impacted by this particular law?
Legal Services.
Could you ask that question one more time?
Representative Miller.
Would I be considered third party? But of course, state representative, I'm running for re-election. I wanted to run a voter registration drive. I pay for it. I hire the people. They go out and register people. How would I be impacted under this law?
Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Houston, Legal Services. So what is being amended here applies to persons or organizations. So it doesn't apply necessarily just to third parties. It could apply to you as well, but you would be required or prohibited from mailing voter registration applications, which has been filled in before it's provided to the applicant, or prohibited from allowing a person who has a particular felony that's listed here from handling those forms. And you would also be prohibited from altering the voter registration form once it's received by you before you submit it to the County Election Commission.
Representative Miller for a follow-up.
Yes, and I could be subject to a $5,000 fine if in fact one of these, if not all, are violated unintentionally or if they're violated.
Legal, you're recognized.
Yes, if you were to violate subsection G2 G2 or subsection H. H is the altering of the registration forms, and G2 is the allowing a individual convicted of a felony to handle the things, and then you could be subject to a $5,000
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Any other questions for legal while we're out of session? Chairman Rudd?
I think as long as you're not pre-filling out the forms or committing some type of fraud, you should be fine.
That'd be
Legal,
my-
you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Houston, Legal Services. That'd be my understanding that as long as you are doing what is here, then there's no civil penalty.
Okay.
Any other questions for legal? Seeing none, we'll go back into session. Looks like we have a couple of speakers, or maybe one. Would the committee like to hear from the speakers at this time? Without objection, we'll go out of session to hear from our speakers. Mr. Adelson, you are recognized. You'll have 3 minutes. Please turn your mic on, see the red light. Give us your name for the record and who you're with.
Thank you, and good afternoon. And Chairman Rudd, thank you for the amendment on this bill as well. My name is Stephen Adelson, and I'm a resident of Williamson County. I'm speaking today in my capacity as the program director at Civic Tennessee, a nonpartisan and nonprofit coalition of over 40 grassroots community and advocacy organizations committed to empowering Tennessee voters to exercise their right to vote. I'm speaking today in opposition to House Bill 1955. The bill would still take the unprecedented and dangerous step of prohibiting certain people from assisting others to register to vote. What new protections does this bill create that don't already exist? And is this bill even necessary? The answer is that it is not necessary, and it doesn't create any new protections for voters. It simply sets dangerous precedent and opens a door to further limiting who can help others to participate in our democracy and exercise their fundamental right to vote. The bill would also establish extraordinary civil penalties of $5,000 per violation of the proposed statute. So in order to reduce the possibility of violating the statute, organizations conducting voter registration will have no choice but to order costly national criminal background checks for every single staff member and volunteer on a regular basis. This will be thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in additional costs for organizations that are conducting voter registration in the community. Many organizations will not be able to afford this undue financial burden, so it will impede their ability to freely and lawfully conduct voter registration. And even still, the most expensive national criminal background checks out there are not entirely comprehensive and do not cover every jurisdiction in the US. So organizations can't ensure full compliance and protect themselves from the new liability that's created by the proposed statute. As well as some people's employment is directly tied to a specific purpose that includes conducting voter registration, and they might experience a loss of employment if they will be prohibited from conducting voter registration under the proposed statute. So concluding, I urge the members of this committee to oppose House Bill 1955. The bill is not necessary. It doesn't create any new protections for voters. It simply sets a dangerous precedent while imposing undue financial burden and liability on good people and good organizations conducting voter registration in the community. Thank you for your time.
Is there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, without objection, we'll go back in session. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you taking your time to come up and speak to us. Chairman Rudd, you are recognized on your bill.
Oh, excuse me. What this bill does is it does 6 things. Number one, it makes sure that quotas aren't set. We've had a problem in the past where people have been paid quotas. They get paid based on each form. They caught onto this. They turned the forms in that weren't filled out. People thinking they were registered to vote and they weren't. And they went to vote and it caused chaos. And plus all these, some of them are blank forms or fictitious addresses. And it wasted the time of the election commission in helping actual genuine voters. So that's one thing. You cannot set quotas and pay them based on that. Number two, it turns it in within 15 days. So it gives the election commission time to process this, 15 days of when you're registering people to vote. The other is without the consent of an individual. No one should have forms filled out, and no one should be registering people without that person's consent. That's only reasonable. So you have to have the actual potential voters' consent before you process their or help them. Number two, number four, it makes sure that no voter forms are pre-filled out for people so that it's misleading them and they're just getting them to sign their signature. So it's the voter must fill the form out themselves to make sure the information is correct. Otherwise, the information could be incorrect and their voter form not processed. Those seem very, very reasonable. Number 5, it prevents the exploitation of the elderly and vulnerable people since these forms will not be pre-filled out. It guarantees their rights so they can get properly registered to vote. And finally, Mr. Chairman, number 6, we need to make sure that, as I mentioned earlier, that none of this should happen without the person's knowledge and consent that the voter application process has begun and their forms have been turned in. So all 6 of these are to protect people, to make sure they're not preyed upon and their rights are upheld. It doesn't prevent people from registering people to vote. It doesn't prevent organizations or individuals from doing it. It just simply makes sure that people's rights are upheld and the forms are properly filled out and turned in. And without some teeth to the bill, we could have violations. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill. And also, Director, Coordinator of Elections, Mark Goins is here if anybody has any questions.
Chairman Moon,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
previous question has been called. Without debate or objection, we will be voting on House Bill 1955 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Bill moves on to local government full.
And we got some announcements. Okay. Well, let's see, we can recess for a few moments to the call of the chair. Excuse me, but before we do that, Representative Hardaway's on his way. We're going to give him time to get here. Chairman Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Missed the opportunity earlier to recognize, I've got an intern shadow today from Stewart County High School. Ms. Robin Mallory is with us, so please help me and welcome her.
Any further announcements or discussion? If not, I'm going to call a brief recess to the call of the chair till we wait on Representative Hardaway to get here. We are to the call of the chair. We are back in session. Next up is item number 4, House Joint Resolution 0042 by Representative Hardaway. The floor is yours. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Please tell us, I believe you have no amendments. Tell us about your bill. Your resolution, excuse me.
I was about to tell you, I'm state rep from Memphis, Shelby County, and father of 3. Oh, 4. Stand corrected. Yeah. But that's interesting, what I do. I am a state rep and representative, and representing is what I do. And if you look at the proposed legislation in front of you, is quite simply allowing us to take what is commonly referred to as a democratic republic, or sometimes as a representative democracy, and bring it closer to being a pure democracy by giving the people the opportunity to vote directly on proposed changes to how we run government. It's really that simple. We can look at all of the fancy language about how to propose amendments, but at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about empowering the 7 million plus citizens of the great state of Tennessee to be able to have a more direct say in what will be in the supreme law of the state, the Constitution. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to entertain questions.
Have any questions?
And I'll be happy to ask for a roll call vote.
Let's see, I see no questions. I guess with that, we'll be voting on the bill, the legislation.
And Mr. Chairman, that's so I will know who I
Okay.
need to have more conversations with. So if you want to hear more from me,
With no objections, we will do a roll call vote on HJR 0042. Madam Secretary, a question on the bill? And do a roll call vote.
Representative Burkhart? Representative Doggett? Representative Hilton Haynes? Representative Miller? Representative Moon?
No.
Representative Warner? Chairman Crawford?
No.
Chairman Rudd?
No.
Seven no, one aye.
Bill fails.
thank you for engaging me.
We have your list now.
I have my list. Expect your phone calls.
Let's see, is there any closing comments by the committee before I make an announcement? Seeing none, I want to make an announcement before we close. No members have that. With all that, let's see, I want to announce, which is not here. I want to announce that March 27th will be our last final calendar of the committee. And Wednesday, March 20th will be the deadline for placing bills on notice. So again, March 20th will be the deadline for placing bills on notice for House Elections and Campaign Finance Subcommittee. And our final calendar will be on March 27th. With that, if there's no objection, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Hear a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned.